Before we start, do you have insurance?
What?
Is your coverage good? Like, do you have dental?
Oh, haha.
Is there a hospital nearby? Is it like too far?
About like 25 minutes, I'd say.
Do you all remember the legendary actor Patrick Swayze? His Roadhouse movie was a massive hit. Guess who just made the possible sequel rumors really special? None other than everyone's favorite actor Jake Gyllenhaal.
Let me guess. Threaten me. Tell me to get out of town. I get the impression that you can't be threatened.
This remake, or reimagining of the 1989 classic, follows a mysterious man who takes a job at a roadhouse only to find himself caught up in a series of violent events just like in the original. The new Roadhouse movie is directed by Doug Liman and written by Anthony Bigarozzi and Chuck Mondry. Alongside Jake Gyllenhaal, the cast includes Daniela Melchior, JD Pardo, Arturo Castro, Billy Magnussen, Jessica Williams, Lucas Gage, and Conor McGregor, who is making his acting debut. Joel Silver, who produced the original 1989 film, is also involved in this one. Gyllenhaal stepping into Swayze's famous role brings a fresh energy to the character, creating an engaging story that keeps us hooked from beginning to end. Now that the movie is available on Prime Video, we're excited about the possibility of a sequel, which could bring even more thrilling adventures in the Florida bar scene. Despite any doubters, the chance to see Gyllenhaal's amazing performance again only adds to our excitement. Now let's talk about what we've heard about the Roadhouse 2 remake, including when it might come out and who's going to be in it. But before we get into that, let's remind ourselves about the first Roadhouse movie. In a new version of the 1989 Patrick Swayze movie, Jake Gyllenhaal plays the character Elwood Dalton, who used to be a UFC fighter. The story is now set in the beautiful Florida Keys. The main plot stays the same. A frustrated bar owner hires Dalton to deal with the troublemakers around town, which leads to some intense confrontations. The remake brings in some new elements, like Dalton becoming friends with a local business owner, having a romance with a doctor played by Daniela Melchior, and facing off against bad guys played by Conor McGregor, Billy Magnussen, and Arturo Castro. Gyllenhaal's portrayal of Dalton shows how tough he is as he goes through a challenging story that lasts for 1 hour and 54 minutes, making fans wish for more. So far, there hasn't been any official news about a sequel to the 2024 remake, also known as Roadhouse 2, but that doesn't mean it won't happen. The response to Roadhouse shows that fans are open to the idea. After the movie premiered at SXSW, director Doug Liman received a standing ovation from the audience. They even chanted his name during the Q&A session after the screening. Jake Gyllenhaal thanked Liman for his great directing skills and hinted that they might work together again in the future. Gyllenhaal showed excitement about a possible sequel in an interview with Collider, which made people wonder even more. Also, in the 2024 remake, there's a scene that after the credits where Dalton comes back, even though people thought he was dead. This hints at more adventures to come, teasing the idea of a sequel or another remake. Streaming platforms are always looking for exciting shows and movies, so there's a good chance we might see a Roadhouse 2 franchise. Gyllenhaal has done well with sequels and franchises before, so fans are excited about the idea of more action from Roadhouse. If there's a sequel, they can bring in new actors, and having famous UFC athletes could make it even more thrilling. One person they might consider is Ronda Rousey, who has been connected to the franchise since a reboot was planned in 2016, even though it didn't happen. So, besides Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor, fans might see Rousey in the sequel. Before Gyllenhaal and McGregor were mentioned for the Roadhouse reboot, Rousey was supposed to play a new version of the Dalton character. Since McGregor plays the bad guy Knox, having Rousey in a good guy role could make things interesting. In the original Roadhouse movie, there was a character named Wade Garrett, played by Sam Elliott, who offered advice and support to Dalton. Rousey could play a similar role in the sequel. In the 2024 remake, this aspect was not focused on much, as the character Charlie, played by Hannah Love Lanier, had a different role. Ronda Rousey could easily take over Sam Elliott's role and become Jake Gyllenhaal's trusted friend in the next chapter of the Roadhouse story. Right now, there's no official news about the sequel, so fans will have to be patient and wait to hear about the release date or trailer for the Roadhouse 2 remake. The 1989 summer movie season started with Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, but for many movie fans, the real excitement began a week earlier with Patrick Swayze's Roadhouse. Critics didn't take it seriously at first, thinking it was just another action movie. However, the director and writers knew what they were doing and turned it into a classic. The dedication to the over-the-top story made Roadhouse the ultimate story about bar bouncers. Roadhouse by Harrington feels like a classic Western movie, but set in a bar. It dives into the behind-the-scenes of bars, exploring the politics and how they maintain order when things get wild. It's fascinating to see how they manage to keep the peace despite the rowdy atmosphere. In Harrington's movie, it's like hiring the right sheriff to run a town full of troublemakers. You need someone tough but approachable, respected but not feared. Swayze's Dalton fits the bill perfectly. He's the best at what he does, and he's just the person Missouri businessman Frank Tilghman needs to control his wild club, the Double Deuce, a place where they clean up after closing. Even though Dalton believes Wade Garrett is still the top cooler, he accepts Tilghman's generous offer and heads to a small Missouri town to bring law and order to a bar. Henry and Henkin's script is smartly written. Dalton has a calm and wise approach to his job. He believes in being kind until it's time not to be kind. He practices Tai Chi and can even stitch up his own wounds without any pain relief. He impresses Dr. Elizabeth Clay with his intelligence, holding a philosophy degree from NYU. After getting rid of some troublemakers, he turns the Double Juice staff into a tight-knit group. And when Dalton faces trouble from thugs working for local crime boss Brad Wesley, he brings in Garrett for help. Do you want to find out yourself a man who can handle anything? That's Dalton for you. As Jeff Haley, the band leader of the Double Juice, would say, in the hands of writers Anthony Bagarozzi and Charles Mondry, linked with Shane Black, Gyllenhaal's Elwood Dalton is a troubled man with a desire for danger. While Swayze's Dalton had his own issues with anger, usually only coming out in dangerous situations, Gyllenhaal's version has a rage that turns him into a complete madman once it's unleashed. There's a dangerous side to Dalton, and when it emerges, Lehman's film takes a wild and unsettling turn. Before we get into that part of the story, we find out that Dalton used to be a famous UFC fighter who fatally injured an opponent during a match. He now makes money by participating in underground fighting competitions, but it's not as successful as it used to be. Still, he's exactly the tough guy Frankie, a businesswoman in the Florida Keys, needs to control her rowdy club, the Roadhouse. There's also a Double Deuce restaurant nearby, but it's a calm place next to a bookstore where Dalton makes friends with the owner and his daughter when he arrives in town. Dalton reluctantly agrees to the job and soon finds himself dealing with thugs hired by local crime boss Ben Brandt, who wants to take over Frankie's beachfront property. Dalton does what he does best, using his skills to handle the situation. At first, it's amusing to see Gyllenhaal's relaxed attitude while fighting, but instead of showing Dalton connecting with the Roadhouse staff, the director throws him into a complicated corruption scheme involving almost everyone in town. It's always tricky to remake a beloved classic movie, especially when the original had such a famous actor. But director Doug Liman and the team at Amazon Prime decided to take the risk. They brought Jake Gyllenhaal and UFC star Conor McGregor on board to bring back the 1989 movie Roadhouse for audiences in 2024. If you haven't seen it, the original Roadhouse featured the late Patrick Swayze. The story follows his character James Dalton, who moves in from New York City to Jasper, Missouri to work as a bouncer at a really tough bar called the Double Deuce. The new version seems to stick to the original only in a few ways. The main character, played by Gyllenhaal, still has the last name Dalton, and there's still a lot of fighting going on. But certainly we will get to see a different side of the story with a different set of actors. That would be a fresh, yet nostalgic feel at the same time. So are you excited as we are? Do let us know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Until next time, see you all.
People seem a little aggressive around here.